morning, everyone. Happy 2018.
Oh my gosh.
It's already here. Thank you so much for joining us here in the Beadaholique studios. I'm Julie Bean and this is Kat Sylvia.
Hi everyone.
If you haven't joined us before, every month we do one of these classes where we try to teach you something new about jewelry making or review tools, which is the topic of this course here. We're going to talk all about the great tools and designer must-have tools for your jewelry making, for a wide variety of different techniques and types of jewelry making projects. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope your new year has been off to a great start. We would love to hear how you're doing. If you have not joined us before, you might not know that we do a giveaway with each and every one of these classes. So let's go ahead and start by showing you what we're going to be giving away today.
All right.
So first off is this macrame board, and this is great for your braiding and knotting projects. It has a wonderful grid and a ruler on the top and these little notches to anchor your threads. We have a thread zap, and we have this great toolkit and these wonderful bead stoppers. So we're going to show you how to use a thread zap and how to use the bead stoppers and a macrame board during this class, and we're also going to open up this toolkit. Now to win, all you need to do is leave a comment in the comment section, and it can be any comment. It can be a question that you have about what we're talking about. We'd love to hear your questions. This is really your opportunity to interact with us and ask us questions, and we'll answer them live here. You could tell us what your New Year's resolution would be. We'd love to hear that, what you're going to be working on in 2018 if you have some beading projects in mind. It can even just be a hello, I'm tuning in from New York or Sweden or wherever it is. We love to hear that. We have so much fun reading those comments. So let's go ahead and start our class. Let's start talking about tools. So there are so many different tools out there, and each of the tools that you see here are available at beadaholique.com, and there's more information on each of them in the product listings. But we are going to start with some great tools that I really think are essential. So I know we're kind of panning over the table here. You see we've got ones for stringing, we've got ones for metalwork, for memory wire bracelets, we've got looms. But I'm going to start right over here, and I'm going to be making an earring. I don't want to just show you what these tools look like. I really want to show you how we use them. So this is the earring I'm going to be making here. And I actually was able to make this earring hook. And I had not used this tool before. Prepping for this class, actually it was a tool that Kat had some fun experimenting with. And now I love it. I definitely want to get one of these and make my own earring hooks because it was so easy. So what we're going to be doing is using this wire jig by Artistic Wire. And for it, we're going to be using 20 gauge artistic wire in gold. So we're going to make the earring finding first. And I am going to start out by pulling off some wire. And I want about 4 or 5 inches. And you notice it's a little bit kinky. So here is a great tool to straighten out your wire. It's a nylon jaw plier. And you see we've used this a lot, but the nylon jaws are still in really great shape. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hold on to the spool. Now this is a little tip. When you are straightening wire, if possible, keep it on the spool as long as you can, because this gives you something to grip onto. And just grab that wire between those nylon jaws and pull. And that really helps to straighten out the wire. And you could go from a couple different angles too.
And we do actually have the replacements for the nylon jaw pliers as well. So if you do a lot of wire work and you end up wearing them out, we have actually a great video showing you how to replace the little tips.
Yeah, and that's a great tip. So you can keep using your pliers year after year and just replace those. And you see there's little screws right there, and we have a video showing you how to do it. Next, I'm going to use my favorite cutter. So this is a Beadsmith cutter. I love it. It's got a nice fine tip to it, and I'm going to cut about 5 inches off using that cutter. And I'm actually going to now hand this wire over to Kat because she's going to be using it in her next project. And here is this wire jig. Now I'm going to have it face me so that I can see what I'm doing a little bit better, but then I'll turn it around so you can see it. So we're going to put our wire through the little hole, and we're going to do about 3/4 of an inch or so, just enough to anchor it. So that's our anchor. Now we're going to go around this little triangle on the inside of that first little dowel, up and around that nice big circle shape on the inside of that other dowel, and we're going to bring our wire all the way around and make a loop. And now this also comes with this little tool, and this is a pusher tool. And so if you set it down on your table, and this goes right over those metal dowels, and you can push your wire down, and that really helps for it to lay straight. Now it's time to go ahead and pull this off the jig. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull that back up, and I'm gonna just cut it. I know I'm not gonna need that little piece. And I'm gonna carefully just pull it off of my wire jig. And we can cut it right here too. Oops, it came right off, perfect. Okay, so where my wire crisscrosses, I want to go ahead and cut. I'm just gonna take my cutter, cut it. So I've got a nice loop. And now I can decide how long I want this piece to be. So that's gonna be the part that goes into your ear. You can make it really long or you can make it short. I think I'm gonna make it a little bit on the shorter side and just cut it. And now I'm gonna take my very favorite chain nose plier. These are long, and I really like that they've got a nice fine point to them, and they're really quite lightweight, which is nice as well. And their grips are very comfortable. It's like a nice rubber grip. So I'm gonna straighten out my little loop with my plier real quick. And now I wanna flatten this. I wanna work harden it a little bit. So I'm gonna be using a wire whacker tool. Now this is great. You can use it with a hammer or without, and normally you would use it on your table, but because we have so much set up here, I'm not gonna use it on my table. So what you would normally do, you've got these two plates. You would set it down on your table, like so, and you would whack it like here. You can even go ahead and put the plates down and take like a rubber mallet and hammer it on top of it. I'm gonna do it in the air because I don't wanna disturb my table here. But you see how this is just sitting upright a little bit? It's not quite flat. Here we go. Sorry for how loud this is gonna be. So I'm really just whacking it, like it says, it's a wire whacker tool. And that's gonna help to flatten it as well as work hard in it. Now you might hear a little cough in the background.
Sorry guys.
Kat is just getting over winter cold, and so we are so thankful that she is here with us today, but we do have to apologize for the occasional little cough.
Yes, I'm so sorry guys. I ended up being a little sick over the holidays, which was not fun, but
No, not fun at all.
But I'm back, I'm here.
Yay, we're glad you're here. All right, so now we're gonna use another cool tool. This is a wire rounder tool. So we're gonna go ahead and smooth out that cut edge on our wire because we want it to feel good when it goes through our ear. We don't want any little burrs or bits of metal. So we're just going to take this little cup and put it over the tip of the wire and rotate it. And you can even move it around a little bit. So we're just getting rid of any little sharp bits of metal so that when this goes through your ear, it's nice and smooth. And that's really gonna go ahead and make this a nice complete finding. So it's really fun to make your own findings. It can be a little intimidating to start, but once you've done a couple, you're just gonna love making them. So there we have a matching earring hook. And with this wire jig tool, it's really nice because they're always gonna be uniform. Now I'm gonna show you how to use another one of my favorite tools, and that is a wire looping plier. So if you've seen some of our videos, we have almost 1,500 videos, and you'll see that I do use these three tools a lot. I love them, and this is probably my absolute favorite must-have designer tool, and it is a wire looping plier. And what it does for you, I'm gonna take this Swarovski faux pearl, and I put it on my ball head pin, and I'm going to grip it right above where the wire exits the bead and squeeze, and it just made half my loop for me. I'm gonna go ahead, pull that wire down, rotate my plier up to the top, and now it's gripping for me as well. So I'm able to now, I can keep it in this pair of pliers, or I can switch to a chain nose. So see, that just made a lovely loop. And now I'm just going to twist it around and trim it off. And tuck in my tail. And now what we can do, because we did work harden this, and it is a really nice finished earring hook, we're just going to open that loop, slide on our wrapped wire loop, and we have a finished earring. So these are some great tools, and you can use them for a variety of projects, but these are some wonderful essential must-have tools, And a couple of the skills we just learned right there, you can apply to a lot of different jewelry making projects. So that was my first project, showcasing my first tools. And now Kat is going to show us some more tools for making your own wire components as well.
Yes, and Julie, may I actually borrow your Zeron flush cutters?
You may.
Thank you. All right, so I made this pair of earrings, and I did this fully in a video, but I just want to show you the tools that I used to do this. Now, these are really great. These are from the Beadsmith, and these are looping pliers. Now, this one has a square looping, and this one is a round looper. So if you could just kind of look at the noses on those, you'll sort of see the different sizes. And just looking really up close, it's easier to see here on the square one. But they have lovely little guides here. So you have 2 millimeter, 3, 4, and then on this nose, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So this allows you to get a really nice consistent loop, because the thing that I have trouble with when I'm wire working is getting that nice consistency. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of show you how to use the square pliers here just really quickly. I'm not going to do a full project like Julie, but just kind of a full little demonstration here. So what I want to do is I'm going to make a 4 millimeter square loop here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of set my wire in there just like so, and across the tip you'll notice you just need to set it just a little bit across, just like so. All right, so I have it there, so I'm just going to bend it around, and then I have my nice little kink, and it's a nice little sharp kink there. So I'm just going to rotate, and again just line it up with my guide of my 4 millimeters and press down again. So now you can see, and then rotate it one more time and press down one more time. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is you can see that I have my nice little square, so I'm going to set it in there one more time. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to press that up just a little bit. So I have made a little decorative head pin there. So this can actually be really fun, and you can see I use something similar here to create this, and then just added a little loop. But I just want to say that these are really wonderful tools to get a nice consistency, because especially when you're making earrings, you can just see how nice and consistent those loops are. And if you tried to do that and with any other tool, you're going to have a little bit of trouble. And that's also another great thing that you can do. These are again by the Beadsmith, and these are just those little step down pliers. So you're getting a nice little mandrel kind of style here, but you're getting a nice consistent loop. So that's just a nice little thing for some of our wire looping pliers. And if you're doing a lot of wire work, I definitely recommend them.
Those are fun. I love when I saw those come in. Those are like, oh, that's so cool.
I can't wait to play with these a little bit more and make some fun clasps and components. So yeah. I'm excited to play around with them a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a really versatile tool. There's
a
lot you can do
really,
with it.
Absolutely. So what do you got, Julie?
So I have some more metalworking tools.
Great.
So I'm going to show you how to make 2 different types of bracelets. I'm going to show you how to make a cuff bracelet and then a stretch bracelet using a variety of tools. So let's go ahead and make the metal cuff first. So I have these wonderful blanks, and these are just flat. They come in a variety of widths. And this is an easy bender tool, and it's really specifically made to bend this metal. So we're going to make the cuff. So what you do is you take this blank, and you see it has these nice smooth edges. And again, you can find this at beadaholique.com. And Rachel, who's helping us with questions, she can provide you the link for that. So go ahead and bend it. And we're going to bend it not all the way. I'm not bending it fully away. And then we're going to go to the other side and bend it as well. And again, we're not going to bend it fully. We're just going to bend it almost all the way. What we don't want to do is we don't want to create a divot or a kink in the middle. So there's what we've got so far. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our bracelet bending plier, and you see it's got these nylon jaws, so it won't disturb the metal, and it's got that nice bend to it as well. Okay, and now we're just going to work our way around it. Okay, you see how it's really forming very nicely. We're just going around and around. It's just giving that little extra nice curve to it. And you see how perfect that is. It's a really nice, smooth shape. And the nylon jaws are great because they're really not disturbing that metal or marking it or bending it. So there we have a cuff bracelet. You can do it with any width of it. It comes in a variety of widths and a variety of metals. So that is the nylon jaw bracelet bending pliers and the easy bender tool. Now, really a quite opposite style of bracelet is a stretch bracelet. I have a couple examples here. Now, we got in a tool a couple months ago, and it was really one of those like, wait, this is so cool. Why wasn't this around before?
Where was this before?
Yeah, and that is this stretch cord needle. And so this is about 10.75 inches, and it's meant to be used with beads that have a hole that is 1 millimeter or larger. If you have beads that are smaller than that, I would recommend a big eye needle. I want to show you what that looks like real quick. So a big eye needle is great because it's slender, but it has, if we see that, it has a really nice big eye. And so for this project, we are going to be using some Opalon, which is a nice stretch cord. And I've cut a length that's about 15, 16 inches, and I've placed a bead stopper on the end. Bead stoppers are great for stringing projects as well as stretch projects, and they're basically this nice little coil. And we are giving this away in the giveaway, so please do leave those comments to enter the giveaway. But you just push these two little tabs together and put it on the end. So I've pre-cut my stretch fiber. And if I was using smaller hole beads, I would just put this nice big eye needle right through this stretch fiber, through the big eye needle, and then I'd be able to string my beads. But I'm going to show you this needle here. So I'm going to recreate this bracelet. These are wonderful vintage beads right here. And I'm just going to put them onto my needle. And you see that it's got that nice stopper down at the bottom. And what's nice is you can go ahead and play with your pattern and just take your beads on and off the needle without having to take them on and off the stretch cord. So they're not going anywhere. You can make it as long or as short as you want. And once you've got all the beads that you want, what you're going to do is you're going to take your stretch cord, and I'll put it on the black here so you can see a little bit better. Just hook it at the end of that needle, and then there they go. And they're on the stretch cord.
So great. I love that.
I love it too. It's been really fun to play with.
Where has this been all my stretch cord life?
I know, exactly. So then what you would do to finish your bracelet is you would just take your two ends and knot them together like so. And I would do a nice secure knot right there. And then for an added measure of security, I would apply a little bit of the GS Hypo Cement. For time restraints, I'm not going to do that here on camera, but you would just put a dab of it. If you look at this, it has a really nice fine needle point. And so then you would just go ahead and apply that to your knot, let it dry, and then trim your ends. And that is how you make a stretch bracelet using that really cool tool. I love it. And I also do, I want to make sure that these get enough attention too, because we use these big eye needles all the time, especially Kumihimo braiding. We use these a lot because we're using like an Eslon cord, which is a little too thick to go through a traditional needle. So we use these big eye ones all the time, and we love them. So I think Kat now is going to show us a little bit more of her favorite tools.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of continue our little bracelet, but I'm going to kind of move on to bead weaving a little bit. So if you have done any type of peyote, you've probably had a little trouble trying to get your cords to clip off. So some people do use flush cutters. I personally don't recommend that. What I recommend is using a thread zapper. Now, we have a couple of different types of thread zappers. We have this one, which is a nice compact one from the Beadsmith. And then we have the Thread Zap 2, also from the Beadsmith. But this has a little bit more of that exposed exposed zapper, I guess I'll call it. This one is nice. You take off the guard and you just press up so you get that nice little thing. And by pressing it up, that tip is heating up right now. So what you want to do is just kind of leave it open for a moment. And then I'm going to take it down to my beadwork here. And I want to get it nice and close. And what's going to happen is it's just going to zap off that thread. So now you can't even tell where that thread used to be. So the nice thing is you can kind of see, and I'll try to hold it up against my hand here. I don't know if that'll help. But what happens is it actually sort of sears the end. So you get that nice little sort of, it almost beads up as though it's wax. So you get a nice little seared end, and that will also help it stay nice and knotted in your work, so you don't have to worry about it slipping through. Now, I did, of course, do a finishing technique where I added some knots here, but this is a great little thing, and it's also nice if you have the kiddos around to keep the nice guard there so that it won't stay out and be hot. So I recommend this one. This is a great one to use, and it just takes a couple of AAA batteries, so nice and compact to bring with you. All right, so that is one of the little tools that I like to use while bead weaving.
And I think before you go on to the next one, we do have a quick question.
Oh, wonderful.
A couple questions on stretch bracelets.
Okay, a couple questions on stretch bracelets.
What's the best elastic cord to use that won't stretch out? And how do you keep the bracelets from coming undone?
Okay, so we had a couple questions. Which is your preferred stretch cord to use? So we really like Opalon. I have it right here. This is a really nice stretch fiber. It's very silky, it's very smooth, and it does not stretch out. I think with a stretch bracelet, it's important to keep in mind, over time, if you do keep wearing it time and time and time again, eventually it's going to stretch out. It's just the nature of the type of project that it is. But this is a really nice quality stretch cord. We really like using it. And then the other question was, how do you keep it from coming undone? So my best recommendation is to use that GS Hypo Cement on your knots. So make sure you tie a double knot, a triple knot, and then even some anchoring knots within the bracelet. You can leave your tails a little bit long, feed them back through, maybe use a big eye needle, feed them back through your beads, and then at another point tie another knot and add a little bit more glue.
Yeah, I definitely like to, if the space allows, feed it back through. That way it's just a little extra security.
And another tip is your beads are important too. If you use really heavy beads, that can become a problem. It can really cause your bracelet to come apart just because of the sheer weight of the beads and the pressure it's putting on those knots in the stretch cord. Also be careful of sharp beads. Something like a gemstone bead is really not ideal for a stretch cord. They tend to have sharper edges, and that can cut the stretch fiber. So maybe use a stringing material such as beading wire instead. And then I think we have another question.
And how long does it take for hypo cement to dry?
How long does it take for hypo cement to dry? Ooh, really good question.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty quick. I don't think I've ever timed it. I would say let it dry an hour.
One thing that, pardon me. Sorry guys. One thing that I like to do is, in the example that Julie did here, what you can actually do is add the GS Hypo Cement to the knot and then kind of slide the bead over the knot, so that it kind of glues that into place underneath the bead, so that you're not gluing like two beads together, you're kind of sliding it over. That way it also adds that little security, and it's now glued to that particular bead.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you can do. I know I like to do that. It helps secure my knots a little bit. But yeah, I would say GS Hypo Cement does dry fairly quickly. However, I would try to give it 24 hours before you kind of start taking it on and off and really wearing it out. So let it set, be patient, let it set, but then you should be good. I'd say solidly after 24 hours, no problem.
That's a very good recommendation.
So, yeah. But I like using GS Hypo Cement, so
I also, I pull so like if I've got this here, if you see this example here, if I was to put the GS Hypo Cement on that knot, which I would do, I would then go and tug this a little more.
Yeah.
Try to get it into the knot. So instead of just laying it on top and trimming your tails, I would definitely tug it a little bit more so it can really kind of seep into the inner workings of the knot.
Yeah. Kind of get in the fibers of the cord.
Exactly.
So, all right, so I'm going to continue here. I have a couple of looms, and this is going to give me a little opportunity here to talk about the two different types of jewel looms that we have. So we have the baby jewel loom, which I have here, and the regular jewel loom. Now I've set up a piece of work on my little baby loom here. And the nice thing about this is that it does come completely set up, so it will be nice and curved for you. With the regular jewel loom, you'll actually have to do a little bit of setup, but what's nice is that it does come and comes flat. So that's why I didn't want to set anything up here. So ours has been bent into place.
We love the jewel loom.
It stays pretty set up for us here. But you can use this metal rod that comes with it, and it will sort of set up and sort of bow your jewel loom for you. It's actually a very nice, easy setup. And then your jewel loom is all set to go. So the baby jewel loom is nice in addition to the jewel loom because it is literally half the size. So you can just kind of see that I've lined up my ends and we're about half the size here. What's nice is that you can create smaller pieces without using as much thread. And the cool thing about the baby loom is that you can actually loom with wire. So if you've ever tried to do that, you definitely don't want to use the full loom because you're going to lose a lot of that wire going back and forth. So what's nice is you can actually use it on the baby loom and create really great little wire focals. So this is going to give me an opportunity to talk about our new kits, and these are our January kits, and these are our Loom statement earrings, and these were made using the baby jewel loom. So just some really fun things. So I know people always think of loom as bracelets or sometimes even necklaces, but you can actually make a really great statement earring. So these are the 4 varieties that we have for our kits this month. And these are featuring a really gorgeous Swarovski crystal here at the bottom. And we do sell these in refill kits as well, so be sure to check that out. That is available at beadaholique.com, and that should be on our homepage today, so be sure to check that out.
And Kat designed all of these, and they are so gorgeous.
I have so much fun making bead weaving patterns. I really, really do. So I wanted to kind of give them all their own little personality. And another thing that's great is if you buy one full kit and you buy the others as refills, the same beads, you'll get the same number of beads. So let's say you wanted to make this pattern, but with the pink, white, and gray. You can do that because you'll get the right amount of beads to make any of the patterns.
So you can swap the color palettes.
You can swap them out.
Oh, that's fun.
Kind of a neat little fun thing that I wanted to do because I know our refill kits are very popular, so I know that you guys love those. So I wanted to kind of make it a little extra special this time.
Yeah, and it is nice because with the kits you do get the pattern.
Yes.
Which is fun.
You get the full color pattern, which is really nice and it's easy to follow. So
yeah. So we love these. You did such a good job.
Oh, thank you.
I think we have another question before we go on.
Sure.
Question about the thread zapper.
Okay.
When you talked about changing the tip, how would you do that and how do you know when to do it?
Sure. Okay. You change the tip. It's very simple. I'm going to do this without touching it because it's probably still a little warm. So there is a way to, what you're going to do is you're going to want to take out the batteries so that you don't warm this up, but you simply remove it and then you just put the other one in. We have a video showing you exactly how to do that. We do sell the replacement tips as well. You can also, let me just put my brace back on here. On the thread zap too, you can actually see this a little bit easier. So that black piece at the top there, that just pulls right out and that whole tip is the replacement tip. Now, when to replace it is kind of up to you. You'll start to notice when it doesn't start to work, and if switching the batteries doesn't help, it's probably time to replace the tip. Also, I know that some people will use this with some different cords. So what can happen is a little bit of that cord will actually end up melted onto your tip. If that does happen, what you can try to do is warm up your tip and try to get that off. Very carefully, I would use some pliers. But go ahead and replace the tip. I use these a lot, but honestly, I don't think I've replaced the tips on these guys in maybe a year or two.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often.
They last a long time, yeah. But we do sell the replacement tips so that you can continue to use the tool. Yeah. So, all right, so going back to Loom real quick, one of the things I want to talk to you about, and you can actually kind of see it. So this is the cord that I use, and it was sort of the interior cord of my last little spool of Nymo. So it's really nice and kinked, which is a little frustrating to work with because it can kind of knot up a little bit, but I'm going to show you a little trick here, and this is actually using beeswax. So what this thing is this is just a little bit of beeswax there, and then you just take your Nymo cord, lay it across, and then just kind of pull it through, and what's going to happen is it's just going to coat that little Nymo in a little bit of that beeswax, and then you can just kind of run your fingers along it. But what's going to happen is it'll kind of pull it out for you, so it'll be a little bit straighter. You can actually already see on the ends there where it's getting nice and straight for me. So straighter, I'll say. But yes, you just pull it through your nice little beeswax there, and it gives you a nice little coating. It also helps to sort of just secure and make it a little bit stronger, kind of conditions the thread as you work. So we have a nice little beeswax, and what's great is your hands don't get dirty because it comes with this nice little compact little thing here, and you can actually click this open. There we go. So you can actually kind of see the beeswax, and you can rotate it as it starts to kind of, you can see I have a few notches here that I've used over time here, but you can just kind of rotate it, and then you have fresh beeswax at the top. So just something fun and just some great little loom tricks here for you.
And I think this is a great time if you could hand me the giveaway. I think I want to talk a little bit more about the giveaway. So if you are watching this live, thank you again for joining us. We do like to give something away with all of our different once a month live classes. And so today we're giving away this toolkit, and I want to open it up here so you can see what's actually inside. And the way you enter the giveaway is by leaving a comment. It could be a question, it could be a hello, it can be anything. So this is a great toolkit because one thing that I like about it is it has a crimping plier. A lot of toolkits don't. So this has a crimping plier, which is perfect because I'm going to show you how to use crimping pliers here next. But it also has a nice sharp cutter, a nylon jaw plier, a couple pairs of tweezers, a bead scoop, a chain nose plier, another pair of cutters, and a round nose pliers. So with this, you can do stringing projects, you can do wire projects, a whole bunch of different things you can do. So a really nice solid toolkit. So that is one thing we are giving away. We are also giving away the Thread Zap 2, which you just heard Kat talk about, the bead stoppers, which you've seen me work with, and then the large macrame board. And Kat's going to show you in a little bit how to use the smaller version, but this is a really great fun tool as well. So we just wanted to share some of our favorite tools with you for joining us. And we do have another question before we move on.
Question from Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Do you have to wax your thread?
Do you have to wax your thread is Carol's question. And the answer is no. You don't have to. It is purely optional. I like to do it, especially with Loom. And I do that because I know I'm going to be doing multiple passes, and usually my thread is quite long. It does help your thread from tangling and knotting on its own because it's just a little bit more slippery, so it doesn't kink as much. It also straightens out your thread, but it is purely optional. You do not have to do it. It is a preference thing. I personally like to do it, but you don't have to. All right, so I'm going to go into, oh, thank you, by the way. Thank you, Carol, for the question, and please keep sending them through. I'm going to go into some stringing techniques showing you some crimping pliers. So I have 3 different crimping pliers. And actually, I would love to grab the crimper out of that toolkit that we're going to be giving away real quick.
There you go.
All right, so stringing is so much fun. There's so many different things you can do with it. I have a couple examples right here of just some strung projects. So here is really a traditional strung necklace. It comes to a end here where we have a single loop on our clasp. Then here I have a bracelet. I actually made this in our last Facebook and YouTube live class, which was about fancy stones by Swarovski. And this actually did a technique where it took the beading wire and it looped it around, and then you actually ended up with all the strands that you needed to feed through the crimp bead, which was kind of fun. And then here is another strung bracelet, and this is using 2 strands of beading wire coming to an end here on the 2 loops. And you'll notice here I have crimp bead covers covering my crimp beads. So let's talk a little bit about crimp beads and stringing, because there's a bunch of different tools, and you might be most familiar with the one that comes in the toolkit. So this one here is really a pretty traditional standard crimping plier. It has the 2 notches, one that's very much like a crescent shape and one that's an oval shape. And you would crimp the crimp bead to begin with in that back notch, and then you would fold it over on itself in that front notch. And so this is a great standard tool, but there's a couple other tools for crimping that you might not be aware of that we really love. So I have the Xuron 4-in-1 crimping plier. So this allows you to crimp 3 different sizes of crimp tubes, a 1mm, a 2mm, and a 3mm. And I'm going to show you real quick how to do that. And you might notice something special on my spool here. I have a Beadalon spool tamer put on it. And what this allows you to do, and it's just a wonderful elastic cord, and I threaded the end of my wire through it. Look, I'm just pulling my wire without having to take off that plastic guard, and it's keeping my wire from coming undone or becoming knotted. So that's a fun tool too. I'm going to borrow my cutters. So here I've got a length of beading wire, and I'm not going to actually make a complete project, so I'm not going to worry about the length too much. I am going to put a bead stopper on the end to prevent my beads from coming undone. And I'm just going to go ahead and pretend that I'm just stringing some pretty beads and bead caps as if I was making a bracelet. All right. So There's stop there at the end. And then let's say I want to go ahead and I want to attach 1/2 of my toggle clasp. So I would take a crimp bead and put it on it. And this is a 2x2 crimp bead. And then I'd thread it through the loop on my clasp. And then I would go back down through that crimp bead. And I always like to go through another adjacent bead if possible. All right. So it's made a nice loop. And now I'm ready to crimp it. Now with the Xuron 4-in-1, regardless of what size crimp bead, you're going to crimp all of them in this back notch that has really like a triangle shape to it. So I'm going to place it in that triangle shape and crimp, and it then mimicked that shape for me. Now because this is a 2x2 crimp tube, I'm going to go ahead and place it in the middle notch of my plier, right there. And squish it, so secure it down. So I just made my crimp bead. And the 4-in-1 is that it also is a chain nose plier. So that's a cool tool because you not only get your crimping pliers, but you get your chain nose pliers. All right, so now I want to show you another tool that does the same thing, but it's just a different type of tool. This is a double notch crimping plier. Maybe it looks a little bit better with the gray. Oops, nope, that's not. Here we go. This was the one from the toolkit, and this is the double notch. So you'll notice it has an extra notch. So this can crimp a 2mm or a 3mm crimp tube. So I'm just going to cut off my crimp tube. But real quick, I should show you how nice that looks with that Xuron 4-in-1. You see that fold over, very nice and neat, and you could easily cover it with a crimp bead. Crimp bead cover, I should say. Yep. I'm just going to cut that off so I can show this again. All right. So let's go ahead and put another crimp bead on there, and we're going to do the same thing using the double notch. So I think if you like to use a wide variety of beading wire thicknesses, that might be a good reason to pick up a crimping plier that does more than one size.
Well, especially because sometimes you don't know until you've if you've bought something and are trying to test it, you know, because it just also depends on how many strands you're trying to get through there as well. If you're trying to do a multi-strand thing. Yeah, like this bracelet here, I was definitely trying to do a multi-strand through that single crimp bead, so I had to use a bigger crimp tube. All right, so this one here, this is going to be for 2mm and 3mm, so we're just putting this one in that middle notch. And we do have a question here.
Question from Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Okay, there we
what
go.
tool would you recommend for bending the top of wire snowflake forms? Some of the readers are recommending memory wire pliers. Would that work?
Here we go.
Okay, so the question is...
Finish crimping that real quick.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, there we go. And that is done with that double notch crimping plier.
Wonderful.
So we do have a question.
Yeah,
do you want to go first?
Sure. Because I don't want to distract you. So the question is about how do you finish the snowflake forms, and what tool would you use? And someone suggested a memory wire plier. You can. I would suggest using a really good round nose plier. I would suggest the brand Wubbers. They have a really nice strong plier to kind of give you that little loop at the end if that's what you're going for. But yeah, I don't. Do you know what cuts those snowflake forms?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
That's a really thick wire because it's meant to be.
I don't think I've ever cut it because it's usually pre-cut, if I'm remembering right, it's kind of pre-shaped like a snowflake and you put things on the end. So what I've always traditionally done is I've left it intact as is, put put all my beads on it, and then I've used a round nose plier, like you suggested, like a wubber, to just turn over the ends, which actually I'm going to show you exactly how to do that here in my next project.
Well, and I was just going to say, you could also use these, I think, as well, especially if you're trying to get consistent loops. Let's say you wanted to dangle something from the ends and you wanted a 3mm loop or a 2mm loop. These are really good, strong pliers. You can kind of see how hefty these are compared to something that might be a little bit more dainty. So something like this would be good. I would definitely recommend going for something kind of heavy duty though, because that wire is strong.
That is very strong.
So you're going to want something that's got a nice good grip to it. So something like this, I think.
That would work as well for sure.
Yeah. All right, so let's continue with your bracelet here.
Okay, I have one last crimping plier to show you, and this has become a new favorite of mine, and it's become a new favorite of mine thanks to Sarah Ayler. All right, so this is the magical crimper, and you see it looks quite different from the other crimpers. It just has that one round little hole. So if we look, I made up a few samples here. So this is what a traditional crimping plier crimped bead looks like. You've got that little seam right there where you folded it over. With the magical crimper, it ends up just looking like a little bead. There's no seam. It's just like a really nicely formed round little bead. So what's important to remember about the magical crimpers is it's actually really quite specific in the materials you want to use. To get the best results, you're going to want to use sterling silver or gold-filled crimp tubes that are 2 by 2. You're also going to want to use more of a medium weight beading wire, such as a 0.018, 0.019, something like that. And this here is a nice medium weight one, and you see it's that 0.019. So we're going to go ahead and put a sterling silver 2 by 2 crimp tube on here. And we're going to do the same beginning process where we just put on the loop on our clasp, fold it over, go back down through the crimp tube and down through another bead and pull it up so that we have that nice little loop. Now here is where things get a little bit off from what you normally do if you normally use a traditional crimper, because you're not going to be doing a two-step method. This is a single-step method. So what you're going to do is you're going to place that, if you look at it, so it's got a little almost like a round divot. You're going to place that crimp tube in it. And what you're going to do is you're going to really carefully look to make sure it is fully in that little round notch, that is not sticking up out of it at all. So that's really a key part to this. And you're going to squeeze. And you're not going to worry about squeezing too hard. I know with a traditional crimping plier, you usually want to squeeze pretty hard. So we just squeeze gently. And now we're going to rotate it. Make sure it's still in that little notch. And squeeze. And you see what's starting to happen is it's starting to take shape. And again, squeeze. I'm starting to look more like that little bead. So see, it's coming to be a nice little round shape. And it really is just patience, and I think the key is to make sure you're using the right materials, that's sterling silver, gold filled, and that you are making sure it's really within the plier and in that little round notch, because that's what's molding it. You don't want it sticking up, otherwise it'll end up with like a little flared edge. But that is how you use these magical crimpers. And thanks again to Sarah Ayler, because she reintroduced me to these, and I love them.
We do have another question.
Question from Janet.
Hi, Janet.
Can you share tips on knowing what size crimp beads to use for your project?
Okay, great. So Janet is asking, can we share tips on knowing which size crimp bead or crimp tube to use for your project? So I think the best advice I can give you is to check the product descriptions.
Yes.
So on our website, we've really tried to research every single product, which includes all of the crimp beads, the crimp tubes. And it will tell you what size wire is recommended to use with them, and then a lot of other tips such as the plier, and in the pliers we list which pliers to use with the crimp tubes. So we've really tried to make everything as easy as possible, but it's really a matter of checking out those product descriptions. So I think that's the best tip I can give, is to double check all of that, make sure that your Wire matches your crimp tube. If you're using a heavier beading wire, you're going to want at least a 2x2. A 2x2 is pretty standard. If you're using a really thin beading wire, you can go with a 1x1. So I think that's the biggest tip, is making sure your beading wire matches your crimp bead or crimp tube, even more so than your beads.
Well, and one thing I like to do is actually exactly what Julie had done, is before I even start a project, I have a crimp tube that I'm willing to sacrifice so that I can make a little loop and just double check it before you do all the work of stringing, especially if you're doing some big multi-strand piece or something. Before you do any of that, take one of your crimp tubes and just double check it, you know, because I know sometimes for me, my crimp tubes, they all end up in a bag together. So I have to kind of separate them out. So I want to make sure that, okay, so this size is the right size that I want, in case you've forgotten which it is, or which SKU it is, or product or whatever. So that's a great little thing, is just double check before you even begin your project. But yeah, we do a great job of trying to help you guys out and figure out exactly which is the right size. And if you're curious, a great way to look is by looking at some of our strung projects, and you can see the beading wire that we used and the size crimp tube. So that can also kind of help you as a guide as well. If you, let's say, wanted to make one of the bracelets like Julie had made here, and let's say you already have crimp tubes at home, what I would recommend is looking at the size that we provide and see if yours matches, and you got to match. So
yeah, that's a great tip, is you can look at a similar project, even if you aren't making the exact project. Look at something very similar and be like, oh, you're doing Swarovski pearls, they did Swarovski pearls, this is what they used, and that's a great tip to kind of give you a guide.
Just a little guideline as you work.
Yeah. All right, so I think I'm done with my stringing. One thing I do want to just point out real quick as we're talking about crimp tubes is a crimp tube variety pack is a great idea too.
Yes.
So I have a little variety pack here. So technically, where do they go? Where's my Zurons? Okay. Here I have 3 sizes of crimp tubes, and I've got my plier, which will crimp all 3, and I'm set. That's all I need.
That's great. I think that's why I love that Zuron 4-in-1.
Yeah, I know these are one of your favorites.
They are.
So, yeah. So, and please keep the questions coming. We're loving answering the questions. So I think we're going to go back to Kat really quick, and she's going to talk a little bit about pearl knotting and some tools for that.
All right, so I love to do pearl knotting. So I've actually kind of started a piece here, and I wanted to use a nice colorful blue cord against the white pearl so you could really see. So pearl knotting is just sort of adding little knots in between a little pearl, and this is often done with pearls or gemstones, because what it does is it really just protects those pearls from kind of smashing up against each other. This is a little different technique. This is sort of an alternative to stringing. So a really just great little thing to use with this. So I'm using a Griffin silk here, and what I love about Griffin silk is that it actually comes with this twisted wire needle attached to the end of the silk. So you can actually see that it's actually braided right in there. But on the off chance that, let's say, I didn't want to use all of this silk for my project, so I ended up cutting it off, and then I ended up cutting off the end with the wire needle. We actually do sell flexible twisted wire beading needles, and these we use for a lot of different things, and you're going to need some of these if you're doing some of our rivet looms, where you're going to need that extra needle. But what happens is they have these nice little eyes here, and these are totally flexible. It's a nice little piece of wire here. So you can just slip the eye onto the end there. It's very nice. And then what happens is you can just sort of pull it, and it'll kind of kink onto your little Griffin silk there. So it becomes a nice little wire needle. So just a great little thing to add to. And I love that the pack comes with 50 because they're so delicate and tiny, and you can just keep reusing them actually, which is really fun. Okay, I'm going to show you really quickly how to do some pearl knotting. So I just finished a knot here. So I have my twisted wire needle attached to my Griffin silk, and I'm just going to slip on my bead and pull it all the way down. And the tool that I'm going to use, and this is kind of why I wanted to show this to you guys today, is to use these little bent nose tweezers. Now these are really nice. They actually fit really nicely in the hand. So what I'm going to do is just kind of do a little wrap and a little knot there, just an overhand knot, just pulling all my Griffin silk all the way through. But how the tweezers are going to come in is I'm going to put them through that hole and grip right next to my pearl there. So I have just the tip right there, and all I'm going to do is just pull my knot and get it nice and close and tight, and then just sort of slip out my tweezers, and then I'm just going to kind of come over and just sort of push that knot down just so it sits right next to that pearl so that I have no slack in between my two knots there. So my pearl is nice and secure. So these are a great little tool, again, because they have such a teeny tiny little pincher there, and they have that nice little ergonomic bent nose there. So just some great little tweezers. Also, these are just great to have on hand if you try to pull a knot through or anything like that. So if anything ever gets stuck, these are a great thing to have on your table.
And I think before you talk about anything else, we have another question.
Oh, wonderful.
Question from Anastasia.
Hi, Anastasia.
What do you do if the hole of your bead or pearl is not big enough? How do you...
Oh, okay. Her question is, what do you do if the hole of your bead or your pearl is not big enough? So we actually have a bead reamer, and you can use that on pearls, and it helps to widen that hole. I would not recommend using it on something like a glass bead, though.
Yeah.
It's really meant for pearls, but you can definitely do that, and it works really well. You can widen it to the point where you can get your stringing material through it.
Well, and we do have different sizes of bead reamers as well. So if you're just trying to open it just a little bit, you know, you can start there. And then if you need it to be a little bit wider, you can just keep sort of twisting it through. It basically, it looks like a little
A file.
pointed file that just kind of goes right through the center of the bead, and you just kind of move your hand. Unfortunately, I didn't think to pull one. I'm sorry.
We do have a video, though.
Yes, we do have a video, and I know we'll provide the link to you guys below here so you can see that. But that's a great little tool to have on hand as well. Just a little file. So.
Absolutely. So, do you want to talk about your punches, or should I talk about my memory wire bracelets?
You know, why don't you get started on the memory wire bracelets?
All right, so this is a really fun project. We always get a lot of really positive feedback. I think people love memory wire bracelets. Kat made this one here, and you can see that it keeps its shape even when you bend it. So that was a really pretty bracelet she did using noodle beads and this assortment of beads right here. And I pulled out a different assortment. And I'm going to show you how to make a single loop one. I was thinking, you know what, Valentine's Day is coming up. So I did a little pink purple with the little hearts. And I want to talk to you about the tools you're going to use. So memory wire requires memory wire cutters. Do not, please, please, please do not use any other cutter than memory wire cutters for memory wire. I pulled out a tool you might be tempted to use. This is a Xuron Maxi Shear Cutter. It cuts up to 14 gauge wire. It is quite heavy. Even this one will still be damaged with memory wire. It is so strong, and it needs to be strong to keep its shape. So definitely use your memory wire cutters, and this is what they look like. And to make a single loop one, I'm just going to separate the memory wire out a little bit, and I'm going to cut it so that it overlaps by about an inch. And I've just put it between the two blades, and I'm going to cut. And it cuts it super easy, and it does not create a ding. I cannot tell you how many cutters I have little holes in them now because I tried to cut it, and it actually does create like a little hole in your plier.
And it ruins your pliers.
It does.
Sad.
It does, but thankfully there's a cutter for them.
Yes.
So if you like doing memory wire projects, the memory wire cutter is a great tool. I also want to show you a really nice round nose plier. Now this is a Lindstrom plier, and this is one of Kat's personal favorites. I pulled it off of her desk, and I wanted to show this one because of that nice fine tip. So this is another really essential tool. We have quite a variety of round nose pliers to choose from on our website, but it's a really nice tool for making loops. And we had that question earlier about the snowflakes and the wire forms. And the way you would end one of those wire forms after one of those, if you're not familiar with our snowflakes, they're basically like crisscrossing straight wires, 6 of them, and they're soldered in the middle, and then you put beads on all the different arms, and then at the end you need a way to finish it, and a great way to finish it is by doing this, creating a little loop. So you just put the wire between the noses of the round nose plier, and you bend, and it creates a little loop, and it will prevent your beads from sliding off. Now, if your loop ends up a little bit sideways, you can still go ahead and use your normal chain nose pliers to just straighten that up a little bit. And now that is my bead stopper. And so I'm going to recreate this bracelet here and show you how to finish it. And I'm going to just start stringing some random beads from this really pretty assortment.
And while Julie's doing a little bit of stringing there, we have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, how is memory wire different from craft wire, and does it come in different sizes?
Okay.
All right, so the question is, how is memory wire different from craft wire, and does it come in different sizes? And by different sizes, I think you mean gauges, perhaps. But the cool thing about memory wire is that it actually does come in different sizes. Now, Julie's wearing the bracelet that I made there, which is wonderful, and it actually can kind of expand and contract. So what's nice is it doesn't need to be a certain size. Now, we do have memory wire that is a circle, and we do have memory wire that is an oval. We also have memory wire that is for necklace size. So if you're looking to make something, or actually it's also really great if you want to create a component. So what you can do is you can take like a half a loop, and now you've created a little crescent. So you can do wire wrapping or stringing on that and just sort of create your own little component, and it'll really keep its shape. The difference with craft wire is that it usually has a copper core, which can make it a little bit more bendable, which is great to work with. So you can use softer tools with it, but you can only work harden it so much. Memory wire is going to be a lot harder from the beginning, and it'll keep its shape. Craft wire can get kinked. I mean, even after you've worked hardened it, sometimes you can kind of crumple it with your hand, depending on the gauge that you're using. Now, craft wire does offer you different gauges. You can do 16, 14, 18, all the way up to 30, 32, which is really, really fine. So there's a lot of different options for that. But memory wire is a really different wire, in my opinion, than a craft wire, and it does have a lot of different applications.
Yeah, I think if you are wanting to make a bracelet such as this, that you want that nice round loop, I would stick with the memory wire. It really does retain its shape. That's, I think, its main property, is it's really meant to retain its shape, and that's why it's so hard to cut. That's why you need a special cutter for it, because it's not meant to be easily like bent out of shape.
Right.
You know, it's meant to be pretty strong and pretty solid. And you see, I'm just putting all these beads on it, and my loop is staying intact. It's a nice solid round shape, and it is one size fits all, which is nice, because it really does expand.
And we do have a couple projects showing you how to make a memory wire cuff. So that is also, I think that was one of our best projects from this last year, so you can definitely check it out in that product collection on our website. But what's the great thing about that is that it still holds its shape, even though you've now cut it apart and made a cuff.
Right.
So again, you can kind of get the different sizes from there. But it really, the loops are, I want to say they are 2.5 inches. If I'm being correct, I hope I am. But they do expand, like, as you can see, Julie's wearing my bracelet there, but if she were to push it up a little bit higher on her wrist, it would just simply expand.
Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily become, you know, it just sort of becomes a different size.
Right.
If you were a little bit larger or what have you. So, but the ovals are actually a really great thing, because then they'll lay a little flatter. But those have a little different style as well, and we do have some projects using that.
And I know we have a lot of people who make and sell jewelry. Memory wire bracelets are great because you don't have to worry about sizing.
Absolutely.
So if you are making some jewelry to give as a gift, or you're selling it, it's a really nice relief to not worry about sizing. So that's kind of a fun thing about it too. So I'm almost done. And we do have another question as I'm putting on my last few beads.
Do you have any tips on keeping memory wire and other findings from tarnishing?
Okay, do you have any tips or for keeping memory wire and other findings from tarnishing? Biggest tip is put them in a Ziploc bag.
They actually have tarnish resistant Ziploc bags.
Oh yeah, great idea. And tarnish resistant strips.
Yep.
So those are 3 different things you can do. So I would put them in a Ziploc bag when you're not using them, whether it's a regular Ziploc or tarnish resistant. I'd put the little tarnish resistant pad in it. And then the other tip is, if you are having a lot of tarnishing happening with your own personal jewelry, just look at your habits. Are you showering with it? Are you putting on perfume after you put on your necklace? Do you have lotion?
Yeah.
So those things can help to accelerate the tarnish process.
Especially, I know this isn't something that we all think about, but clean your jewelry every once in a while, you know? I mean, I wish I could do it every time I took off a pair of earrings. Sometimes I don't think about it. But every once in a while, like when you go to clean your makeup brushes, clean your jewelry too. Just wipe them off. You know, there's lots of alcohol that you can use, depending on the metal finish, of course. But, you know, just clean up your jewelry and make sure it's all pretty and nicely packaged.
Yeah.
So
I hope that helped.
Yeah.
Give you some ideas of where to start. So I'm ready to finish my bracelet. All right. So you see that did not take long, and I love this variety pack because it's fun to just have an assortment of beads. So I've got just a little bit left here. It's a little over 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to take my round nose plier again. And it's nice because I can make this loop any size I want. I think this is about where I had the other loop. And I'm just working it around. And there we go, we've got my loop. And now what I'm gonna do, because I did wanna show you a very basic skill here, which is good for everything, is just opening a jump ring. So I've got my chain nose, and I think I'm gonna use my Zurons. These keep coming in handy, because these are the 4-in-1s. So I'm going to take one of these little heart charms that comes with an oval jump ring attached to it. I'm just gonna open that jump ring, slide it onto my loop, and close it on up. You can do that on the other side as well. I love these little like puff heart charms. Okay, I'm gonna put this on the other side as well. And you see how these work together. So that's a nice thing, is because oftentimes you do need that second chain nose plier. So if you don't wanna have 2 identical tools, it's nice to have this 4-in-1. And we're done. We made a little second memory wire bracelet.
I love it. It's so nice and easy.
Yeah, very easy. So I think Kat is going to now show us another tool. I know we're trying to move along here because we have been talking for a while, but we definitely want to show you all these fun tools.
So I'm going to show you this really quickly. We do have videos how to use the macrame boards, but I just kind of wanted to show you the size difference between the mini macrame board and the large one here. And then the large one here is what you're going to get in the giveaway today. But the mini one is, I'll just kind of turn it on its side so you can really see that it's about half the size. So the great thing about this guy here is that it's great for travel because it actually holds your cords in place. So I started this little bracelet here. Now this is just a very simple square knot using some hemp cord, and I wanted to add just little beads on the side there. So just very, very simple. But what's nice is that it has this nice little ruler that goes across and down. And what's also great is that it holds your cords in place so that if you ever need to put it down, you can just pick it up so you don't have to worry about it getting all knotted and everything like that. So kind of keeps it all nice and in place for you. So we do have videos showing you how to do this, but I just want to show that this is a really great little tool, and I like that it's nice and lightweight. You can use it for many different applications, and it's great to travel with. So if you want to just do a little macrame or whatever as you are on the plane or in a car, this is a great little tool. All right, so the last thing that I have to show here is I'm going to show a couple little hole punchers. Now, this you're going to want to use with some metal hole punchers here. Now, I have the round 1.25 millimeters. We do have a couple of other different sizes, and this is the Euro punch. But I wanted to pull these ones out today so that I could show you a really neat little trick. So one of the things that can happen is if you take a piece like this and you want to use it and just hole punch, what can happen is you can actually end up marring this little piece just a little bit. So what I recommend is actually placing a little piece of paper towel over it so that when you line up your hole punch, and you can kind of gauge it on the back there. So let's say I want a hole punch right there towards the corner. I'm just going to punch right through that paper towel. And now I won't have that nice little, or that nasty little mar on it. So I have a nice little clean hole right on the front there. So when you're choosing the size that you want to use, I would definitely recommend looking to maybe the size jump ring that you want to use. You might need something that has a larger hole. And then I just want to kind of use my same little piece here and show you this little guy. Now this is great if you're trying to drill rivet holes, and what's nice is that you can see on the top here, let me kind of turn them around. I hope you can see this on camera. We have the 1.5 millimeter and the 2 millimeter. Now these are great. You just kind of set your piece in there, and I'm not really gonna focus too much on where it's gonna be here. Oops. Make sure I'm going the right way. There we go. All right. So I'm just gonna get it down there and then punch my little hole, and then I'm just gonna undo it there, and I have my nice little hole. So really super simple. Again, we do have another video. I'm rushing a little bit because I want to try to get this wrapped up for us today. But some great little hole punch tools as well. So you'll find these in our product collection for today.
And I do want to note with this one, what surprises me is you don't have to use a lot of strength.
No,
It looks like you do,
easy.
but this like crankshaft really does the work for you, and it's very easy to do. And then one tip I wanted to share is if you do know specifically where you want your hole, take a little fine tip permanent marker.
Yes.
And make a little dot. And you'll be able to see that when you're lining it up, and you're just going to punch right over that dot, so you're not going to have to worry about ink on your piece. But it's a great little tip.
Yeah.
And then we do have a question.
Question from Angie.
Hi, Angie.
Do you feel a pop when the hole is complete?
Oh, do you feel a pop when the hole is complete? I think you do. You kind of notice like a little give.
Yeah, you can kind of feel it. It's like tight, and then it goes. Doop,
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, there you go.
Yep. Very easy though. Super, super easy.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm gonna grab your tray here.
We're sort of sharing.
So I want to show you another tool that you often, or not often, but you might want to use in conjunction with some blanks. So we have a lot of Swarovski flatback crystals. We have some that are hot fix and some that are not hot fix. And these ones here are not hot fix. And you see they're really pretty. Now this is a magic pick, because I'm often like, well, how do you get that here? Let's say we wanted to do a little design. I would recommend using, again, your GS Hypo Cement, and you could place little dots. And then to pick up your little flatbacks, we have this tool right here. And this says right on it, magical pick. And you see it has this nice little kind of tacky tip to it. And what you're going to do is you're just going to place it on top of your stone, and it picks it up. You can move it around, and then once you've got your glue dot, it will just stick in the glue and release. And you can do that time and time again. And then if you want to adjust the position, you've got this nice pointed tip end, and you can just scoot them. So this is a super handy tool if you like using these flatbacks. And then if you use this time and again and this kind of loses its tackiness, it comes with this great little like recharger pad that you just put a little bit of Scotch tape in, and you just clean it, you roll it on there and press it down a few times, and it returns that stick to it. And then you're just able to pick up these pretty little flatbacks. And you can use it with all different sizes of flatbacks.
You can also use it with chatons as well.
Oh, you can use it with
If
chatons.
you're working with crystal clay, this is a great little tool.
Yeah, so this is one of our staples in the design space. It's kind of a mystery. How do you get those guys onto here? You could try a tweezer.
I was going to say, go ahead and try the tweezer. Go for it, Julie.
All right, well, I've done this before.
All right, fine.
It can
I
be
have
challenged.
trouble doing it with the tweezers for sure. They'll be flying across the room before and then I'm out of flatback.
Yeah, this is definitely, I think, the preferred method.
You know, I think it gives you a little bit more mobility in where you're putting it as opposed to trying to tweezer it around. So
Another nice thing is if you do have any shakiness to your hand, a tweezer can be difficult. This, you know, even if your hand is a little bit shaky, this is going to be really forgiving, and it's going to be nice to be able to pick those up.
yes, absolutely.
All right, so we are down to one last tool, but before we show that to you, we want to review the giveaway. So you have one last chance to leave some comments to enter our giveaway. And so we are got the large macrame board. We have the bead stoppers, the thread zap, and this complete toolkit. And all you need to do is leave a comment.
All right, so last chance to leave your comment really quick while Julie shows us our last little tip and trick and with our last little tool here. So go ahead and show us that. Julie, what do you got?
So I have Tool Magic. So this is a really cool substance, and I'm counting this as a tool because we use it with tools. So this is essentially a paint or a coating that you put on the tips of your pliers to prevent them from marring your wire. So if you do a lot of wire work, this is great. So I've already pre-coated one, and I know you can't feel this because you're watching this, but it's a little bit rubbery. It's not tacky, it's smooth, it's dried, and it's a little bit rubbery, and that is going to help to prevent little mars and nicks on your wire as you're working with it. If you're tugging your wire, maybe you're doing chainmail. This would be great for chainmail because it's actually going to give you a little bit more grip too. It's a little, not sticky, I don't want to say sticky, but it is like a little bit of rubber.
Yeah.
So it does give you that. I want to show you how to use this. So if you look inside this, let me set up a little bit of a spill station just in case, because you never know. All right, so if you open this up, this is what it looks like inside. It looks like white paint or white glue. And I'm going to take my Xuron chain nose, and you're going to stir it up, and all you need to do, submerge the tips and pull them out. And you see now they're coated. And I let mine dry overnight, just to be on the safe side. I don't think you actually need to let it dry that long. Please check the product description. I don't think it's overnight. I had prepped mine for this class by letting it dry overnight. But that's it. So I like to kind of hold them for a few minutes as it's super wet. And then what I do is I just put the lid back on. Oh, and you don't do that. You don't squeeze them together after you've done that. But you see it's actually already starting to dry. Yeah. So that's a good note of how fast.
Good little test there, Julie.
Good test.
You meant to do that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, what I would normally do is not squeeze them together and keep them open and just set them on something to dry.
Yes.
So that's what you do. And
perfect.
Do not squeeze them right after you do that. But we do have another question, so.
Angie asks, is Tool Magic latex because she's allergic?
Okay, is Tool Magic latex? And I almost just squeezed these guys again. Let me check the description.
Yeah, we do want to let you guys know, if you do have a question about what material something is and it is not listed, please let us know, because one, we definitely want to help you out, and two, we want to make sure that it is listed so that the next person, will be able to find out exactly what's in some of the products that we sell. So we definitely want to help you guys out. So if you ever have a question or if it's not listed, just ask. Yeah,
and please go ahead, Angie, and we will research that for you. I am not seeing it on the actual jar. So I think that is a very important question to answer. So we will answer that question for you and get back to you to your comments, but we just need to do a little bit of research. It might be on the actual physical packaging, like a card that this comes with. So we'll check that out for you and let you know.
Yes.
All right, we are just about ready to announce our giveaway winner. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope we gave you some ideas or introduced you to some new tools that you might not have known about. Keep leaving comments. We do continue to check them for the next several days, even weeks. We check back, and always reach out to us with other questions. And thank you again, and Happy New Year. And let's see who our winner is. All right, so our winner is Sandra Morgan Ellis. Congratulations. So we will be, go ahead and send us a note to.
At service at Beadaholique and beadaholique.com. Hi, Sandra. Send us a message at service@beadaholique.com, and we'll get your information so that we can send out this beautiful giveaway to you.
Congratulations.
And thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And I'm so sorry about my coughs. I feel really terrible, but I am feeling better. So we'll be back next week, and we'll have lots of great new things for you guys. And we'll be doing another class in February, so stay tuned.
Yeah, and please join us again next Wednesday, because we do Bead Table Wednesday every Wednesday, where you can check in with us. And again, that's a really great time to talk to us and see what we're up to. Yeah. All right. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for joining us.